Welcome in, everybody. We're going to get started in 60 seconds for the Fudd Trifecta. Welcome to the Old Path Traveler podcast. And here we have our crew, the Fudd Trifecta. Welcome, everybody. Super glad everybody's here. So, we have some new faces here tonight. Really excited for all of you to be here. Of course, Crack's already making a mess in the comments, the way it should be. Let's see who we've got in the chat here. Yes, so this is the Fudd Trifecta. I just feel like we should go ahead and lean into it. Just, that's what it is. That's who we are. It's not a pejorative anymore. It's a badge. So we wear it proudly. I see Charles. I see Morty. I see James. I see many people. Many people. Welcome, everybody. So with us tonight, you guys all know my friend Jolly Roger, frequent guest here. And tonight we also have Ian, or as some of you know him, Mr. Double Tap himself.
Good evening.
So we're going to get into it tonight. We've got some fun stuff to talk about, and glad everybody's here. So go ahead and roll that music back. All right. So first of all, level check. You guys let us know, but if you can hear us okay. So far on my end, it looks like everybody's nice and positive. So we've got a couple topics to get us started, but before I do, Ian, and I didn't prep you that I was going to ask you this because then you don't have time to freak out about it. But,
okay. All right.
Just tell everybody who you are and, how you're here, and just tell us a little bit about yourself so people kind of know who you are.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say hello to someone very special, which is my wife, Sherry, who's watching in Florida right now.
Hey, Sherry.
Hey, Sherry. So, Sherry knows Mark. She met him at the Texas Fair a few months ago.
Sherry?
But, I came out here to the United States 8 years ago, and I always wanted to come out here. Came out here originally in 75, loved the country as a young boy, then decided that I wanted to make a life out here, and I did. Got out here later rather than sooner, and jumped at the chance. I'd set up a company over here, and I now live in Dallas in Texas with my wife, Sherry, and we love it here. And so here I am. I was not a gun owner until someone fired a shot into the side of my truck in Indianapolis. And as you might realize, that soon makes people a gun owner. And I bought a Glock, then I bought another, and then a Canic, then an H&K, then a Smith. And I wasn't interested at all within the area of the 1911. Wasn't of interest to me until someone in a local gun store said, "Here, try this." And on a whim, I bought it. And as a result, I bought some more and some more. And then I came across your channel, and I learned a lot from it. There were some mistakes I'd made and some of the issues we're going to go over later on. But I learned so much from it, and we then had the Patreon that spawned from that, and so really that's a very condensed version of how this grew. You know,
That's great.
Yeah, how I got here.
Yeah, man. And I'm glad you're here. So, you know, from my side of the house, you know, those of you who are not on Patreon, first of all, you're missing out. But you know, that's where I get to know people the best, and or you know, we just interface with each other on a much deeper level there. Because you know, YouTube comments. I mean, gosh, the last video I did, it's up to like 480 comments. You can't engage with people on a deep level in that way. And you know, I made a commitment when I started the Patreon that when I begin the day to go deal with comments, I start with Patreon. I go there first. I talk to people there first, and then I go to YouTube. And anyway, I got to know several people, and you know, Ian was one of those who just kind of clicked with, and we had a you know, a phone call probably a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And man, it just and I think I don't know if I told you this yet, but it meant a lot because you correctly identified what I'm trying to do here. And I thought, okay, he gets it. He knows what I'm trying to do. He gets the spirit of it. And so for that, I thought, man, yeah, you know, I would love to have you on, and I'm glad you're here, man. I'm really grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I've got a video that's going to be coming out Tuesday, I think, on that very thing about just some channel updates. Man, there's so many changes coming. I wish I could share them all with you guys, but some really cool stuff coming. So, all right. So before we get into our kickoff topic here, let's see. Man, so we're up to 60 folks here. It's growing pretty quick. You know, we're gonna keep. I think we're gonna pop 150 people tonight. Last time we got to like 120 or 30, I think. So yeah, I love to watch this live stream grow. So I just want to brief the chat. Mr. Bagman says, I recently became a gun owner just over a week ago. It's a 1911 $630 Kimber. Hey, congratulations, man. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. You started out correctly with God's gun. So
Is that the Kimber or 1911?
The 1911.
Yeah.
The 1911. Okay. Now I don't want to ask because I don't want to have to take back what I just said, but I hope it's in 45. I hope it's a bushing barrel. I hope it's single stack. So, all right, I'll bump that volume up just a little bit. Let's see who else we've got here. Yeah, DB, I saw your comment there, man. I bumped it up a little bit. I'm trying to find the balance between them and me. I don't want us to. I want us to be nice and balanced. So, and of course, just so everybody knows, I've done a lot of live music and audio stuff. And the one thing you can't do is mix by democracy, because audio is a taste, right? And you get this person who's like, it's too loud, and you got another guy who goes, it's not loud enough, and so nobody's happy. But I just want to make sure everybody can hear. So, yeah, the Kimber's awesome. And you're at the right place, man. This channel, the main thing we do here is 1911s. That's sort of the heart of the channel. Oh, good. He said it's single stack.
Yeah,
all right, good.
Okay.
As the Lord intended.
He can carry on watching then.
That's right. He can carry on. I love it. But no, you're in the right place, man. There's a lot of good people here. And, you know, I do my best to be educational with what we're doing. And I love to hear that, man. That's one of my favorite things is hearing people say, like, I just bought my first 1911. That's because I remember mine. It was a Springfield GI. The, you know, straight serrations, standard ejection port, Parkerized, That was my first 1911, and man, I carried it concealed. I hadn't yet been infected with the idea that you must carry a 9mm and you must carry a lowered ejection port and all these silly ideas. And I probably put 4,000 rounds through that pistol. I didn't know, but back then you could go to Walmart and get you could get a box of 45 for like $12. You know, the good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah. DB says Tisas turned into an investment.
Yeah.
You know,
I
listen,
hope so.
It's getting to be that way. And now it is a little bit funny because as soon as that video came out, Tisas went on sale everywhere. Made me look like an idiot. So I was like, dang it. But it's just a sale. So let's see. Reconstructing, Ryan says, after finding your channel, the funniest thing happened. Santa didn't bring me one Tisas. He brought 3.
Mm.
That's a good Santa right there.
It's good.
Donald here. Hey, man. He said, I don't see Tisas getting any less expensive going forward. Yeah. I mean, I think they're going to do their best to stay where they are. But I don't think we're going to see them go in reverse unless one of two things happens. They're going to start cutting corners, or somebody else is going to take over manufacturing. They're going to be made somewhere else. I think that's the only two options, and neither of those are good. I'm happy, you know, and maybe let's just touch on that for a minute before we get into our main topic. You know, and by the way, when we say Tisas, I think the three of us here all agree. We're talking about the ASF. That to me is like the benchmark, because some people are saying the service is on sale for $279. That's a good gun. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, the ASF is the benchmark. That's the line. But I want to talk about this price thing. Like, let's just pretend for a minute that the new price is $500. For me, I still think that's a great deal for what it is. Even if it got to the price of, you know, say a Springfield Defender mil-spec, it's still better built. It's still got better parts than the Springfield.
Yep.
But it's the Made in America thing where when they're the same price, I'd say probably 70% of the people are going to err towards the American-made one.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I'm in full agreement with you on that.
Yeah. And there is something to that. I totally get it. Let's see. I'm already behind on the chat. There's like 30 comments. Let's see here. And by the way, Mark and Ian, if you guys see a chat you want to call out, feel free to.
Sure.
Thomas Campbell says, I just picked up a used Springfield Range Officer in 45. Excellent. Phenomenal pistols. You got the Bomar style sights on there. The target sights, fantastic. But that's a true, proper, well-built 1911. You know, this is also a video that I've got in the queue. Is I encourage people to try to find a used gun first. I would say trying to find a used Tisas, but Tisas is in a weird spot because nobody wants to sell a 1911 for $150. But unfortunately, that's what you're going to let them go for if you try to sell one used. And that just doesn't compute in people's mind. So that's why you don't see a lot of Tisas for sale, used. But anything else, man, Springfields, Colts, there's nothing wrong with a used gun. And I'd love to hear you guys chime on on that because I know you've got a few.
My first Tisas was a Tisas tanker. And I went into when I was living in Alabama, Huntsville, I went into my favorite pawn shop and I said to the guy, have you got this particular Tisas? And he said, nope, I haven't. He said, but come down to the used section here and have a look. And he had me worked out, he saw sucker written across there. And and so I looked at it and it was this beautiful black, in excellent condition, albeit a little bit smaller because it was duty size. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to have this. And I was so impressed with it. And that was the first one. The first 1911 I had was a Gerson, which was good. You know, I didn't know any better. But I bought another Gerson that was a 9 after that, which I really liked. And then, as I said, the first Tisas after that was the tanker. And then that's when the rot set in and I started buying more. As you know, so,
have you guys heard me say that we all have something called gonorrhea?
Yeah.
And they don't make a patch or a gum.
No.
There's nothing for it. You just have it, and that's life now.
Yeah. And I'm lucky my wife hasn't divorced me yet, you know, because of this, you know. Yeah.
I had to have that conversation with my wife a long time ago. She would ask this often, is this the last one? And I'm like, honey, listen.
No.
This is just how it is now.
Yeah.
The last one is when I'm dead. That's how
Yes.
this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's made peace with it. So let's see here. Donald says the historical or the ASF, used interchangeably for sure, is still $4.99 at PSA. Yeah, it's still totally worth it. 100%.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let's see. I can't say that screen name. It's just a pile of letters. But Minnesota CCW gun carrier shot by ICE agents today at protest. Yeah, I saw the video. He shouldn't have pulled a gun on him. So, period. I think he has the right to carry. He should have been carrying. That's a good thing. And in the same breath, don't pull your gun on feds, I feel like is usually sound advice. I'm probably weird. Yeah.
First thing I thought of when I saw that was the Josie Wales quote, "Dying ain't much of a living, boy."
No.
Well
Not
said.
a good place. Not a good place to pull your pistol.
No.
Yeah, unwise.
Very unwise.
I think you watched a little bit too much John Wick. I mean, it does show the level of intelligence because he had a red dot on a SIG. So I'm throwing that out there. That's the gun he was carrying. It fits with the action. I'm just joking. Totally just joking. Let's see if we just start losing viewers at that comment.
You might gain a few.
I hope. Let's see here. We're going to get into our main topic here in just a minute, but I love to respond to the comments. Yeah, always check the pawn shops for sure, man. Oh, that was one crack. He sent me a picture today, and I put it up on our Patreon. Somebody was reselling a used Tisas, like a GI model that they had put a red dot on.
Oh, yeah.
And my comment was, that's like putting a Barbie wrap paint scheme on a 69 Barracuda. That's taking such a classic, amazing thing and just making it completely, I don't even want to use those words, just bad. It's bad. Yep, 2A issues bring me to the table is Asol Monte. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, 2A is a big one, man. I am a 2A absolutist, not just for the people I like, but for the people I don't like. It is a right. Absolutely. I'm even of the mind, I want, after a felon has served their time, they need their rights restored and they need to be able to carry a gun.
Yeah, in the old days, of the West, they used to say that after you served your time, you got your gun back, your horse back, and your life back, because you paid your debt to society.
Well, that's the thing. It's like,
that's how it should be now,
Yeah, I know a guy who, when he was like 16, got a felony, and now he's almost 40, and that follows him for the rest of his life. And he's not a bad guy. It was just a dumb I mean, who does smart things when they're 16? Not me. I just didn't get caught. That's the only reason I don't have a felony. So
I would add to that, having a sort of a different perspective coming from the other side of the water.
Sure.
And I've said this to you, we call it our 2A rights. I call it my 2A privilege, because where I'm from, we have nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I'm very privileged to be over here and to be able to own a firearm. Now, I agree with you. I think if someone, depending on the felony, when they've done their time, they can be reinstated. Maybe have to go through a check process. But I think if they used a firearm and they murdered someone with it, I think that's going to be a line that's going to be difficult to persuade people to cross. But you're right. There are people out there that have done some dumb things, and I think there is a process where you can go through that reinstatement.
There is. It's difficult though, because you've got to get you've got to get judges and all sorts of things to be on your side and sign off.
Don't get caught bribing the judge.
There you go. No, man, it's just one of those things where I'm heavy on, and this is why I never get picked for jury duty. I'm big on the Blackstone formulation, which is derived from the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, where basically God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham is like, yeah, but what if there were just 10 good people there? Would you still destroy it? And God goes, no, I won't. And he talks them all the way down to one. Basically, it's not worth destroying an entire group of bad people if one innocent person suffers. And the Blackstone formulation in law is this theory that it's better that 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man suffer. Mm-hmm. And I'm so much of a believer in that, and which is the opposite of most bloodthirsty, corrupt prosecutors. I repeat myself, corrupt and prosecutor, those are the same word. Let's see. Oh yeah, that one got the chat going. Let's see. Yeah, Donald, I was going to bring that up. He said for felons, he said, thankfully they still have cap and ball firearms, crossbows, and air rifles. Listen, if all I had was an 1860 Army, I'm just saying I'm not undergunned, okay? that would be hilarious to be concealed carrying an 1860 Army. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, Reconstructing Ryan said we should spread the gospel to a UK. I like it. John Walker says, I've got a couple Kimbers, a 1920 Colt commercial. I mean, you have my attention now. A modified Remington R1 and a Dan Wesson Valor. All of them are government length and great. I've been looking at these Tisas lately, and it's your fault. I accept responsibility.
Yeah, you got a lot to answer for, Josh.
Listen, I accept the blame for sure. But, hey, let's talk about that for a minute, because, you guys both own everybody's heard me talk, but you guys own a really broad swath of guns, and particularly you, Jolly. I would like to hear you just talk about, like, your first Tisas was one of the recent ASFs from late last year. You want to just touch on that?
Yeah, that's right. After I found your channel, and I knew about the Tisas guns before that, but, just seeing your videos, reading the comments, and then started looking into it out of curiosity because I'm a Colt guy, although I have a few Springfield Armories too. But I thought I need to find out more about these Tisas guns. So I've got my list of 1911s to buy. There's 1,000, and it was like number 997 on my list of 1,000. But I took advantage of that Halloween deal that PSA had, and I actually missed out. I missed out a few days because I could have gotten it for about $30 cheaper, I think. But I got it. I was just amazed. It didn't need to have anything done to it. My normal routine is when I get a new gun, even a used gun, I completely disassemble it. In the military, we used to call it taking it down to parade rest. But fully disassemble, check everything out. Look for any problems, and then lubricate it, put it back together, try it out. And when I had that SF apart, I was really impressed. It's machined nicely in places where it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by the machining, and it's better than a lot of my Colts. I mean, I can be open-minded enough to admit that. But it had a fantastic trigger out of the box. So it was one of those guns where you get and you can't wait to take it out to shoot it. And I've got so many 1911s that I look at them like, I don't know what I want to take, because I could take, I could take a dozen to the range. But I really wanted to get out and shoot that one. And I took it out, and it performed flawlessly. Yeah. Absolutely flawless. I ran every kind of magazine, even the worst junk magazines I have that I've kept just for that purpose. And it ran beautifully. I took a couple of Colts with me, and they all did fine. But I was really impressed with the Tisas. And it immediately went into my carry rotation. Mm-hmm. And I think I carried it about a couple of months straight every day. And I wanted to check for finish wear. And there isn't any. It's that their finish is extremely durable.
Yeah.
So even though I'm a Colt guy, I have to admit what a great gun it is. It's the best made right now, certainly for the price. You can't do better than that. So even with the recent price increase, that hurts, but they're not unreasonably priced. And for what you're getting, if they had started out at $5 or $5.50, it was still a good value at that price.
100%.
Yeah. So that's my experience. I just have the one. I probably will have more in the future, though.
Yeah. Man, I just realized I got like charcoal on my nice white hat. Anyway, we're both experiencing this thing about their parkerized finish being weirdly durable.
Yeah.
Because it's so smooth, and you expect that smoothness to translate to fragility. Man, this is a grip safety with 320 grit sandpaper to it. I'm working on a new build, and I'm going to be bluing it. I fought this with every ounce of my strength, man. I mean, that parkerizing is not fragile at all. No. And same thing. It spent a lot of time in the holster. It just doesn't wear how you would expect.
Yeah, I remember your quote. I think when someone went onto the Patreon and said, "I'm going to try and strip this one down and blue it," and you said, "Don't." Your comment was, "It's the Cerakote. It's a real bear to take off."
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah.
and that end of conversation.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, well, I'm not going to attempt that. But Mark, I remember I did one. I made my own blue. I copied yours down to the exact make. And Mark subtly warned me. And it was subtle because I didn't really take notice. And I found out the hard way. But what was interesting is that I didn't sand it down. I tried to be lazy, and I tried to polish it on one of those rotary polishers, and it didn't come off easy at all. And in the end, I had to sand it.
Yep. Yeah, no, and just to compare the parkerized versus what is it, Cerakote?
Yeah.
The parkerized is easier than the Cerakote.
Yeah.
To be clear, but I'm just surprised at how much that parkerized put up a fight.
Yes, it does.
It really, I just, and part of it is because one time I just did a little funny test, and I just tried to scratch the parkerizing, and it scratched it, whatever, maybe not down to the bare metal, but I was like, okay, it's pretty fragile. But man, then like I said, I put 320 grit sandpaper to it, and it was like, nuh-uh. Let me catch up on the comments here. PSA sucks. I'm still waiting on my order 3 weeks out. Listen, I get it. The problem with PSA is not that they suck. The problem is they are swamped with orders. I know people who, well, let's put it this way. One of my best friends has family that works there. And so I have sort of like a 1 degree removed knowledge of what goes on inside their factories. This friend of mine, he's been on several, like not official factory tours. They just walking around and everything. And yeah, he said their shipping department, it looks like a mailroom from the 60s. It's just chaos. Just they are so busy, and it's just they're doing a good job, man. So, and listen, I'm in manufacturing and things like that, and when you got orders stacked up, I mean, just to give you guys an idea, you see all them boxes back there? I'm in small scale manufacturing right now. You can only do what you can do, man. You keep working and you get the things out when you can. So, let's see. Reconstructing says, is it fair to say that Tisas established their own COTEP chapter? I don't know what that is. But I will say, well, I don't want to say. There's stuff going on with Tisas. I think we're going to see some changes from them soon. Let's see. James Vader says, you hooked me on Tisas. My dad's Colt is over 100 years old. There's no reason to take it out anymore. I totally get it, man.
Get that?
Yep. I know a guy. He's right down the road from me, and he has one of the finest Remington Rands, a complete Remington Rand, which I'm trying to get you a picture of it. Jolly, I want you to see it because it's a beautiful one. It's a good looker. And I brought over my ASF, and I'm like, just check it out. And he's one of those people. I don't understand this at all. At my house, our windows are open. Like we like light, But this guy, like, all his windows are closed, and he's got like a lamp on in the corner. So you go in there, and you're like, I need night vision goggles in this house. But I handed him my ASF, and he goes, you got a Rand? And he's like looking at it and everything. And I was just silent. I'm just going, he's going to notice. He's going to figure this out in a minute. And he goes, did you not hear me? He didn't figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, and I told him what it was. And he has the same problem. He's like, I want to go shoot this, but I don't want to wear it out. And I'm like, you need to get what I'm just handed you. And he did. And he's like, I couldn't be happier. And when I was over at his house, we took them apart and compared them piece to piece, every little dimension. They're so exact. I mean, that's something I would like to do for a video, is get a Remington Rand and just take it apart and go through everything. That would be cool. Let's see. Donald Hay says, hopefully not Doritos. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's a little funny. They're debating chips, I guess. So I'm a big kettle cooked guy. I like the crunch. I'm about the crunch. Here's a good one. Kevin Smith says, has anyone heard Pieta is making a clone of the Colt Python? Yes.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to sell those faster than they could ever dream of making them.
Yep.
I might be a customer. Here's why. I think it's going to be better than what Colt's putting out right now. Sad fact.
It's not difficult.
It is not difficult. Ask me how I know.
Yeah, ask me how I know. Yeah, ask me how I know. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think they're going to be better, and I think that they are going to be a fraction of the cost. And listen, Pieta does good stuff. I'm not personally a fan of their black powder stuff, but their regular wheel guns, some of the stuff that they've done I think they've done stuff for like Taylor's and other companies like that. They're great. I don't have any problems with them. In fact, my first black powder pistol I gave to my buddy Kyle, because he's like, yeah, I want to get into it. I just don't know what to get. And I'm like, now you're into it. And it was a Pieta. That was my first black powder. And man, that thing is a great gun. It's very forgiving.
I see one here, John Walker.
Yeah.
Do any 1811 guys like the SIG P210? Absolutely. It's a fantastic gun.
Which one? The SIG P210?
P210, yeah.
Which one? Is that the old, the Walther looking one?
No, it's a very clean design. There's been Target versions of it that have been made. I'm not sure if
that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was actually an adopted military pistol or not. I think it was. Yeah. I did get my hands on one probably 25 or 30 years ago that a buddy had. What a fantastic thing. It was like ball bearings on glass. It was so smooth.
Those are super cool guns.
It's a fantastic pistol.
What's the one that looks like the Walther? It's an older model. They've been making them for forever. I don't think they do anymore. I can't remember, but I shot one of those. It was awesome.
Yeah, Donald Hayes says it was a Swiss Army pistol. I thought so. I think the ones that are here in the U.S. are known more as a target pistol, or at least they're configured that way. I'm not sure that, and they probably have been offered on the surplus market, although I haven't seen one.
Yep. That was the pistol that John Travolta used in From Paris with Love, I'm pretty sure. Which is a hilariously terrible movie. And in the movie, he has this thing where he wants to sneak the pistol into, I think, France, and to get through customs, the slide breaks down, and then the frame actually breaks into two pieces, and he's got them hidden in like energy drinks. It's a funny movie. It's interesting. Yeah, let me. The people are giving me suggestions for the SIG that I'm thinking about. The SIG P230, maybe that's the one. The 230.
230 does look like a kind of a PPK style gun.
Yeah, it's in like that PPK VZ70, almost Makarov CZ82. There's this family of little guns like that. And I love them all. I every gun I just listed, I would love to have. Yeah. I had a Makarov. I sold it to Pete. I don't think Pete's in the chat tonight, but are we traded?
Yeah, Pete's not feeling too well. So
that's right. He's got the
so
bug,
from all of us, Pete, get well.
Yeah, we're praying for you, man.
Yes, get well, sir.
Let's see here. Yeah, T-Dream. The 230 is the one I was thinking of. And yes, they are. Suka74 says they are just so bloody expensive. The truest thing said tonight. Yeah, I've been looking for. So just so you guys know, benefits of being on the live stream. I have Monday a Colt 1903 pocket hammerless arriving from none other than the Crackmeister.
Yeah.
Which I am so excited about. Another bucket list gun for me. Very likely that one's going to go to Turnbull and let them do their magic. I want to see it like fully restored, magically beautiful. I've got all my spare parts in from Numeric because I'm a freak. I've got spare extractors and pins and every little thing that could go wrong on that gun. But anyway, yeah, so that one's chambered in 32 ACP. I'm actually a big fan of really like those smaller cartridges like 9mm Makarov, 380, 32, even 25. They're fun shooters, especially for like, you know, your wives and kids and things. If they really don't shoot much, they are very forgiving, very gentle. And so, yeah, all those guns in that family of like the Walthers, the Makarovs, all those, anything chambered in 32, I'm actually a massive fan of. I love 32 ACP. And
yeah, for those of you on Instagram, if you follow Jason Burton, he recently posted some photos of a P210 that he did.
Wait,
So
Jason Burton did a P210.
he did a P210.
Oh,
Yeah.
we gotta look at this. Hold on.
Yeah, it was fairly recently that I saw the photos.
You have my interest. It's gonna take me a minute to find it. They're a cool looking gun, man. Like they look like a target gun. Either that or they look like a French service pistol. I don't know why. That's just what they say to me. Let's see if I can find it. Nah, it's not indexing. That's all right. I really do. I'm interested in seeing that though, because Jason Burton has anything he touches turns to gold. So, all right. So let's go ahead and jump into our main topic for the night. And this is just a jump off. The conversation can go anywhere from here. But, in my videos, I've alluded to this. And throughout videos, I've made these mentions and everything like that. But this is actually a great topic because there's probably I think 4 or 5 people in the chat right now who have said, I just bought my first 1911. And this is a fantastic topic. But listen, anytime you bring up topics that are beginner topics, some people who think they know it all kind of glaze over. But listen, it's our mastery of the basics that determines how good we are. It's not all the knowledge details that you figure out. And I've learned so much listening to beginner stuff. So, but what I wanted to talk about and just kind of kick off was the approach, the mindset of owning a 1911, because it's not like the modern way people think and operate. And let's first establish what that is. What most people expect is the quote out of the box experience. That's not something that you should expect for a 1911. Now, not for a factory 1911. Even one as well built as a proper Colt, which we got to talk about the pre-war stuff at some point. The pre-war repros that we have, because there is such thing as good Colts. They exist, but even these recent ASFs, as good as they are, for me, the first time in my life I've ever had a pistol where the only thing I did was change the recoil spring and lubricate it was that recent ASF. That's the only one ever. Normally I have to change all the springs. I've got to tune stuff. Extractor needs work. There's the list. But even if the thing's built really well, you can't snatch it out of the box and trust it with your life. And for some people, that weirds them out. But I think it's only the modern Glock brain is what I call it. And really, this Glock brain has been made by 15 or so years of gun tubers who have put this idea in our head that you have to go to the gun store, snatch a box open, yank it out, and immediately fire it. And somehow that is a green light. 1911 is not that way. There's things you need to know and understand. It would be the same as, I often equate it to having a carbureted vehicle. You can't expect to drive a carbureted vehicle and just go, well, I don't feel like I should have to know how to clean a carburetor. Well, then you're going to get stuck somewhere and you're going to have to find somebody who knows how to clean a carburetor. So in no particular order, we don't have a script set out here, but I wanted to talk about that, about some of the big things, from people who've been shooting 1911s for a while. What do you need to do to approach these things? And look, the list doesn't have to be long. I've got my big 3. I think everybody knows them. But, yeah. Jolly, why don't you start us off? What would be, if somebody sat down and said, I just bought my first 1911, what would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them, if you're not going to look at something like a Tisas, like the ASF, then look at something used. I go like, you've done a couple of videos recently on the Colt 1991s, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yep.
Older Springfield Armories are fantastic. And it doesn't matter if it's had 500 or 5,000 rounds through it. The guns are well made, and they're very durable. They're really combat pistols. And you can get into those for a pretty good price. You're not going to have a huge investment in them. And for one thing, if you do have a used one, if it hasn't been tinkered with by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, it is well broken in, and it's probably going to be extremely reliable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned Glock brain. That is a relatively new thing. If you go back to the 80s, and I think the Glock 17 was introduced in the U.S. in, 83 or something like that, early 80s.
Yep.
If you looked at what was being produced back at that time, and I was involved in shooting then, you had your Colts, and they were primarily 1911s in 45, although you did have your Commanders in 9mm, and you had some 38 super guns. But then you had like your first and second generation Smith & Wessons. Those were not noted to be very reliable at all. In fact, they required some tuning also. I think what it is, the current generation of shooters are too young to have known that. They didn't experience it. In fact, I'm sure since this is the Fudd tribunal here, I'm sure there's plenty of people that weren't even alive then, And but I can remember a Smith & Wesson 39 or a 59. Those were not very accurate and reliable guns. They needed work. And eventually, Smith & Wesson figured all that out, and they were excellent. They made those things a long time. In the mid 80s, you had your Beretta 92 models come in. Extremely reliable, probably the most reliable guns.
Yeah.
It's certainly at least equal to the Glocks.
Yep.
And I think that's where this thing started, where you don't have to clean them, and you should expect it to run 100% right out of the box without even taking it apart when you get it home, without inspecting it, without lubing it. That's a relatively new thing in shooting. But I agree with you, Traveler. It's really been a more recent thing with the exposure they get from the gun tubers. You buy the thing, you go out and you do your 1,000-round burn down. And like I say, with a 1911, was it Larry Vickers said it's an enthusiast pistol?
Yes.
You need to know the gun well.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can learn it. One reason it's so popular is because it's such a simple design.
It's remarkably simpler.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly simple. And once you learn just the basics of tearing one down, it becomes fun, and you want to do it more, and then you want to get more of them, and you want to learn the tricks to tuning one.
That's right.
But again, I would start with either a new Tisas, because it probably will run reliably out of the box.
Yep.
Or I would get an older Colt or Springfield Armory, and used one, and start there. Drop 500, 550, maybe $600 into something like that, and spend the rest of the money in ammo.
Yes.
So that would be my recommendation. I think that's the best place to start. And you probably will get a gun that runs very reliably. Traveler has his big 3. That's very important on a 1911. You can have a $5,000 custom 1911, and it won't make good magazines work. That's just right. Because the gun's good. You can have a $25 magazine that's going to make your $5,000 1911 choke. But I think most people that shoot polymer pistols have had experiences with a Glock or maybe an M&P or something else, maybe a Springfield XD, that wasn't reliable either, because they were using, say, Pro Mags or something like that.
Yep. What were those clear mags that were real popular for a while in Glocks?
I think it was Pro Mag.
Was it?
I might be wrong. I know, I had a guy that he was a big Ruger 1022 fan. They had those green colored Lexan magazines. I think they were made by Butler Groups or something.
Yeah.
And those things were horrible. And you pop some Ruger magazines in it, and the gun works great. It's just that as we talked about on our live stream when we talked about magazines, that's one thing that the farther you stray from the original design and the original specifications, the more likely you are to have problems.
Yep.
Those of you who didn't tune in for that live stream, go back and watch that
Yeah,
one. We
yes.
covered a lot of things in detail.
We
did a deep dive on that.
That was a great one. And it's funny we're talking about this. I just talked with a guy today, and the guy knows his way around guns. He's a smart guy, but he's maybe new-ish to working on 1911s. And he's got a Tisas gun, and he put a Nighthawk barrel in it, and he's trying to like go super custom. Everything's got to be, all that, and that's not bad. I'm not criticizing. But yeah, that's what it was. ETS. Yeah, those were hot doo-doo. I remember those were the hotness because they looked cool. They were clear and all that. And man, they were Jam-O-Matic magazines. But anyway, I'm hanging out with this guy today because I went to go pick up something. We'll talk about that later. And he's like, "Man, can you look at this 1911?" He's like, "I think I need to change the feed ramp angle." And I'm like, "Okay, well, right. See, that's the same thing I did." And I said, "Well, let's look at it. Let's see what it's doing." And he's like, "Well, you hit the slide release and the round stops on the feed ramp." I said, "Okay, well, let's check it out." And I said, "First of all, what mags are you using?" Wilson 10 round mags. Okay. Slam on the brakes. Hold on. And I said, he's like, "Well, what do you recommend?" I said, "Springfield, Kimber, Checkmate, or Colt 7 round magazines." He's like, "That's not enough. I got to have more ammo." I'm like, "I get it. I understand." He's a very modern gun guy. I said, "However, those magazines do not work nearly as well as a 7 round magazine." And I said, I'm not going to bore you with the details as to why. Trust me, that's a fact. But I said, let's just look at what else is going on. So, this Nighthawk barrel he had going, right? Long story short, the barrel throat was really sharp on the bottom because it was the gunsmith version. So it shows up with a lot of sharp edges and a little bit oversized. And I said, you need to I said, go Google Colt barrel throat. And I said, Colt does this thing where they put a little channel right in the barrel throat. I said, I'm not saying that works every time, but I think you should do it on this one. So we just went into a shop and he took a Dremel and put that, just burned it in the barrel throat. And then we go in there and he chambered it. He's like, son of a gun, that worked. And then we kept going, and now it's starting to get hung up on the extractor. I said, okay, hold on. Let's do a little extractor job. So we went and pulled the extractor out, profiled the bottom corner of the extractor. And then he took that whole 10 round mag and just, and he goes, holy crap. Right? And I said, so here's the thing. I'm telling this story for a reason to back up what you just said. Stick with the original. If you just stick with the original stuff, all of this special mags, flat wire springs, because that's where his mind's at. It's all the products that companies like Wilson Combat push. And I said, look, everybody in the chat, just start posting it right now. What springs do I recommend? I just want to prove that I'm not a Wilson Combat hater before I drop trow and to take a Cleveland steamer right on them. But the deal is, they're a company, and companies need to make money, and they do that by selling goods and services. And look, at a certain point, a custom gun company is going to sell their own. Yeah, there you go. Everybody's saying Wilson Combat. Yes, I recommend their products. I don't hate them. But just because people get in their mind, Bill Wilson is good at 1911s, therefore draw a straight line all the way to everything they sell works. That's not true. And for me personally, they're 47 Delta magazines. Those are the biggest piece of propaganda out there. Those magazines, I have had more luck with Pro Mag in the past year than I have with 47 Deltas. And that's a offensive statement. I know I'm probably going to catch hell for that, but Anyway, all that to say, you know, I want to back up though to something to what you were saying though, Jolly. So let's say you get home. This is just my 2 cents. And Ian, after this, I want to hear what you have to say, because you told me the other day you had some experience with this big three, and I'd love for everyone to hear that. But yeah, Sparky said, no disrespect to Bill Wilson. I respect him a lot. Me too. And that's why I said I want to make it really clear. Bill Wilson's a genius. He's great at what he does. I don't dislike him. In the same breath, I don't think all their products are perfect. That's all I'm saying. But let's say you get that new 1911. What do you have to do to get it to be ready to shoot? And actually, instead of me saying all this, Ian, why don't you just tell your experience that because you kind of went through the ringer where you had some issues with some and.
Yeah, and it backs up what you were telling me, what you explained to us in one of your videos a while back. You had the big three, but the most important for me is whenever I get a new pistol, if it's used or new, before I take it, I used to take it straight to the range, and I would get the traditional break-in issues. You know, I went back to my friend in the shop and I said, you know, it's stovepiping, I'm getting jams, I'm getting failure to return to battery. And he said, you know, something you don't know yet, but you're going to learn is that all 1911s have a break-in period. And I accepted that. You know, the Glock, when I was at my range back in Huntsville, I called them the Glock Mafia, you know, the Glock mob. And, you know, they would literally, they have this little micro dropper and they would literally it was almost like a game to see who could put the least amount of oil. And
that's funny.
Being gullible and new to it, I'm okay, I've got to do the same. So it's very easy to follow in. What I found was that my enthusiasm to go out and fire that gun for the first time, I had to stand up to it. So I bring it back, and the first thing I do, the cardinal rule, is I lube it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Now, I used to change all the springs. And again, I'd use the Wilson Combat, and I'd religiously change them through. And I didn't follow up on the third so much, which was the mags, you know, the Springfield mags. I'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah.
But the most important thing I ever do without fail is I lube that pistol, and then I take it out and I'll fire it with the original springs, and I will use the Springfield magazines. I've got a stack of those now, and that's all I use.
Yep.
I have absolutely no failures. The experience I used to have for a new gun compared to how it is now, I would say 90% of the issues with a new gun go away with lubing it.
Yep.
And guess what we lube it with? You know, again, it was you that said use the 5W30. I may be a little bit guilty of being over applying it, you know, and I know there's, as I say, people will say, oh, you know, you might damage the gun. You ain't going to damage a gun.
No.
Not something built like that.
You can literally fire that pistol in a 55-gallon drum of 5W30, and it will not hurt the pistol.
Yes, but if people are new to these and they want to take the advice from somebody who has done it that way, lube.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing is lube the pistol. You'll learn which parts will benefit from it. You know, I do along the rails. I do all around the barrel. You know, and when I fire these 1911s, I bring them back and I clean them. What I've noticed, and I fire them a lot, is that the standard wear marks that you will see on a barrel, you see inside the slide. They're not as prevalent.
Yep.
Lube is doing something. So I'm sure there's people out there that can say, I don't believe that. You know, they made these guns, they didn't smother them in oil, you know, but yeah, you hear about people that, you know, I mean, a guy I was talking to, his grandfather gave him his 1911 from Vietnam. And I said, wow. I said, why did he give it to you? He said, because he said the damn thing doesn't work. And I said, well, why? He said, the thing's always jamming. And I said, well, have you tried lubing it? And he went, what? And I said, okay.
This is a really funny thing, because people don't realize guns nowadays, let's just say it this way, everything's trying to be a Glock 19.
Yes.
The whole world just wants to be a Glock 19. And the reality is, you can shoot them. Like, I have a friend, I'm not going to say it, call him out by name, but I made fun of him relentlessly because he was carrying a Glock 26 and he literally never cleaned it, not even once. And he pulls it out and he's like, man, I just feel like the trigger's really heavy on this. It's not fun to shoot. I pulled it out and guys, there had to be a tablespoon of God knows what in the trigger mechanism of his pistol. He was pulling through like, it looked like a dishwasher disposal had just emptied itself in his gun. It was gross. And, but see, he had heard, well, you don't have to clean the Glock. And it's like, okay, you have to understand old world guns don't work that way. And here's the other funny thing. That is only an American civilian thing. Everywhere else in the world, every military, every populace, people, particularly anybody who's ever worked with a machine, a vehicle, anything, industry, manufacturing, knows machines need oil.
Yeah.
That's how life works. And it's just a strange concept that people have. They have this almost a complex about oil. It's very strange. It's very strange.
You find that in the auto industry. When I was back in the UK, I had a V8 engine company, and I would go to shows, and I'd have these beautiful V8s. And I remember someone coming up and saying, "Well, how often do you oil these?" And I said, "With these, every 3,000 miles." And he went, and his sort of face dropped. And I said, "Well, what are you doing?" And he went, "Well, I change the oil on my Corvette every 25,000 miles." And I'm like, I said, maybe you need a new engine. You're going to need a new engine. And I didn't push it any further because the guy was sort of, I think I was going to ruin his year by telling him that. But there's people out there that just don't believe you need to change the oil. And we all know this. You can drive a vehicle in this country and get 250,000 miles, 500,000 miles. Change the damn oil.
Yep. Change
it every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. And the engines just last, and it's no different with a 1911. And I think, like I said, oiling is 90% of everything.
Yeah.
The springs are so good now on the Tisas side. I hardly change any of them. I'll change the recoil and I'll change the sear spring.
Yep.
The mags I use automatically are going to be the Springfield 7. I don't use the Wilsons. They tend to have issues.
Yeah, let's camp there for just one sec because. That caused a stir in the chat.
It's my English accent, yeah.
No, it is really what I said. Because Mr. Bagman, he's the one who bought the Kimber, and he said, "Oh, I bought 3 Wilson mags. Crap." All right, so look, here's the deal. It's not well. I'll tell you my problem with Wilson mags first. First of all, the plastic follower on the bottom is a problem. You can literally just take your thumb and push it off. And guess what happens to that spring and all your rounds inside? Out they go, okay? That's my first problem. And if the mag's new, that's going to be hard to do, but ask me how I know. I've done it. Especially, I'll never forget, I was taking a pistol class, and I had, was it Kyle Lamb who has the VTAC target with all the shapes in it and everything? I went to go through one of the shapes, and I had a Wilson Combat magazine in my Springfield Armory pistol. And when I went to go push through, I punched that follower right off the bottom, or the base plate. Boom! Base plate comes out, spring shot out, all my bullets went with it. Is that a combat magazine? I'm going to say no. Okay? So there's my first problem. Second problem, the followers. They get chewed up. Let's ask us a really silly question here, class. If you just took a piece of steel and a piece of plastic and scraped them on stuff. Which one's wearing out faster? Right? That's what happens to the Wilson followers. They start getting chewed up, and then on top of that, I have had it happen only once, but it's happened. That follower breaks and goes up and tries to feed into the chamber of your pistol. So again, I'm calling hot steaming BS on this idea that Wilson Combat 47 Deltas are this amazing product. And then lastly, 7-round magazines, the reason they work so well is spring tension. When you start increasing the number of cartridges in the magazine, you have to do something with the spring. You have to use a lighter spring, a thinner spring, so it can be compressed further. What you give up is those last few rounds having the proper tension, and they're going to have feeding problems. In fact, when you talk to people who have feed problems with Wilson Combat magazines, ask them when it fails. It's the last 1 or 2 rounds.
That's what's happened to me in the past.
There you go. Okay, I didn't know that, but that's...
Yeah, I just, the penny just dropped on that now. I learned something.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on that quickly. You want Wilson mags, get the original 47, the 7-rounder.
Yeah.
There's even one of Bill Wilson's videos when he's with Ken Hackathorn, and he even said the springs last indefinitely in those. And I have the Wilson ETMs. I have the original 47s, the 7-rounders. It's a good magazine, but the same issues that Traveler just mentioned with the floor plates and with the follower, I've had that issue too. I have some 1970s, 1911 magazines. They're GI contract made by Checkmate.
Yep. The
followers still look fine. They're not chewed up a bit. I've personally put 20,000 or more rounds through these magazines, and I still use them. I've refreshed the springs in them one time. That's it. But getting back to the Wilson magazines, if you want Wilson magazines, the ETM is a good magazine if you have to have an 8-rounder.
Yeah.
But you do have the removable floor plate on it. You do have the plastic follower.
Yep.
I would recommend go with the original 47. The springs last a long time in those. I've never replaced springs in those.
Yep.
I don't really shoot them anymore, but I went through a phase when I just never bought the 47Ds because I remember reading some things, and I think it was probably Clint Smith or one of those guys preferred 7-round magazines. And here's something, if you're a 1911 fan, and a lot of us are here, I've been flipping through the comments here. What was it? A couple of days ago was John Browning's birthday. So, we all seem to hold him in great reverence, when I think justifiably so. So why do we want to always undo what he did? He kind of knew what he was doing. I mean, you look at all of the small arms that he designed, some of which are still around. We're still using the 50 caliber Browning that he designed. 1911s are still in limited service in places, but we always want to try to undo or outdo what he did. He kind of had things right the first time.
Yep.
And, you look at those Army trials in 1911, if there were things that needed fixed on a 1911, was it Ken Hackathorn said, they would have been fixed in 1912.
Yeah.
The changes made to 1911s later on were detailed changes, the A1 configuration. But if you get if you bought a used 1911, you're just getting into them, and you have magazines that are known to be from a reputable company, maybe it's a Colt, it's got a couple of original Colt magazines, or some Springfield Armory magazines. You might have some Kimtac magazines, or ones that are Checkmate. The gun will probably run just fine with those versus going out and buying, $125 worth of new Wilson magazines.
Yeah.
So, spend your money wisely. You can get into this very inexpensively, and you're going to have a gun and magazine combination that works because the farther you get away from the original design, the more likely you are to have problems.
Yep.
So, you keep it simple. It's the KISS principle. Browning and the U.S. Army people, they knew what they were doing back when they laid out those specs. And, working with Colt, they designed a very reliable pistol. One thing we touched on in our last live stream about lubrication is the amount of friction area that a 1911 has versus a Glock.
Yes.
We had some photos up, and I would say with Traveler's big three requirements, if you're going to skip anything, I would skip the magazines if you think they might be good, and I would skip the springs, but don't skip on lube.
Absolutely.
Ian had it right also. If you're going to not do all of the three things, if you're just going to do one, lube it up. That's the thing. More than anything, 1911s don't like to be run dry.
Yep.
Run them wet. Could I add something?
Please.
Yep. I would add one more to the Trav big three, and that is clean the damn gun. Yeah. You don't have to do it every time you fire it. You don't have to strip the thing down and do it. But I noticed this. I rented out at my local range the Kimber lightweight. It was the only 1911 that they had out of the rentals, and it was terrible. It kept jamming, and I took the slide off and had a look. I shouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have approved, but I took the slide off. It was filthy.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. And luckily I had a cloth. I had a microfiber, and I cleaned the throat, the barrel, inside. I just wiped it around. I thought, I don't know if that's going to make much of a difference, but the black that came off, and I put the gun back hastily.
Yeah.
Well, the range officer caught me, and it worked.
Yep. It
worked perfectly. No more issues, no more failure to go into battery, no more stovepiping. And I actually, when I took the gun out, I said to them, they said, how was it? I said, you guys are disgraceful. You should have been cleaning this. And they went, we don't clean them. And I said, well, yeah, you've got Glocks, you've got Smiths, you can get away with that. But it was the naivety. I was going to say ignorance, but I guess that's too strong a word. But the naivety of the people working there, in the sense that they just didn't understand that with this particular firearm, you had to clean it. So clean the gun. That's the other thing I would recommend. You don't have to do it every single time. I used to. Now I'll do 2, maybe 3 sessions, and then I'll clean them. That's all I can handle.
And really, at a bare minimum, this is all I ask people to do. Take the slide off, take the barrel out, clean the bore, take a rag, wipe the inside of the slide, take the frame, wipe the slide rails and the feed ramp. Just do those things.
That's it.
Even maybe hit them with a little bit of, ballastol, and then wipe all those 3 places down. The barrel, the inside of the slide, not super detailed, frame rails and feed ramp. You will do yourself a massive favor. Massive favor. You don't have to detail strip it. And look, the guns, they will shoot a lot of rounds before they start having a problem when they're dirty. However, depends on what you're shooting. Like in recent years, Winchester White Box has become basically a black powder cartridge.
We talked about that last night, didn't we?
Yeah.
I fired my first box to them last night, and I thought I was in a cigar lounge. Mm-hmm. The smoke that was coming out, I thought someone was smoking right near me.
Yeah.
And I looked inside the pistol. It was filthy. And I thought, they never normally like that.
Well, I want to go back to the chat here for a sec, because Mr. Bagman's beating himself up about buying some 47Ds. And listen, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. No, listen, I think I only have 3 47Ds left. I used to have a lot, and guess what? They all broke, and they're gone. I only have 3 left. Whereas my first Springfield pistol I ever bought, Springfield GI, I still have the same 2 magazines that it came with, and I just replaced the springs last year. And that was 15 years ago. And there's no telling how many tens of thousands of rounds those magazines have gone through, how many times they've been carried, dropped. Listen, run them, and especially for the range. It's a good way to practice working through malfunctions that you're probably going to get. But, just to go back to what Jolly was saying, that, people have to understand, like, the military, especially back then, it's not like it is now where you have all this corruption and whatnot. I mean, of course, there's always been corruption, but you go back to the early 1900s, they were very serious about this has to work. And if it doesn't work, we're going to tell you and you're going to fix it. And we're going to test that this works. And if we want changes, you're going to make those changes. Like that was really the attitude of these groups. I mean, and especially around the 1911, man, you had the cavalry board, you had the army themselves, you had all of the procurement people. There was a lot of people who were poking at John Moses Browning and his team and Colt early on because they were involved in it. And again, Ken Hackathorn said it really well that if all these things people complained about today were such a problem, they would have figured it out and demanded a change. And they did. When you look at the development of the 1911, there's a lot of things they changed. They're like, we want it in 45, as the Lord intended. We want it to have a grip safety. They demanded that. They wanted it to have this and that. And you go down the list. There's a big list of them. I got a stack of books behind me there that are full of all the details that they wanted. And so when they got the gun they wanted, they ran it. And none of these things were a problem. And here's the really interesting thing. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, but it's in one of my books. And he did a research project on why did GIs like the 1911 so much. You know what their number one reason was? It was reliable. The number one reason. And it went all the way up into the 80s in service, still in civilian use, some military and police use today. I know a police officer who carries a single stack Kimber today, SWAT guy. So the original design worked. Of course, there have been little improvements and changes, and they're fine. But you have some big ones that just you want to stick to on the 1911. Bushing barrel design. You get into these bull barrels. Do they work? Yeah. But you've changed something, and nothing's free. With everything I'm about to say, remember that phrase, nothing is free. You want to stick with that bushing barrel design. In my opinion, stick with 5-inch. When you go to shorter guns, you're going to have to start changing springs. You can't use light recoil and ammo. They like to run hotter ammo. You have a different slide velocity and timing. A lot of things start changing. And now look, nowadays, commanders work a lot better than they used to. Certainly, I would not recommend an officer length. That's not barely a 1911 anymore. So bushing barrel, 5-inch gun. I think 45 personally, but hey, there's some 9s and 38 supers out there that work really well. Internal extractor, huge one. External extractors are a big no-no. I don't care how successful Smith & Wesson is. The single stack mags and particularly the 7-round magazines, that recipe has been working for far too long for us to deny its effectiveness. So
let me add one more in there would be a GI recoil system also.
Yes, and thank you.
No full-length guide rods.
So let's touch on that real quick because I wanted to go back to what you were talking about with out of my big three. I think you're dead on. If you had to only pick one thing to do, it's lubrication. And I do have to say, recently, Tisas has stepped up their game with springs. I still think you need to change the recoil spring soon. I'm not going to say right away if you want to run it for a little while, but I did a video where I measured their springs. Their springs are thinner. They're shorter. They're not going to last as long. That's just a fact. But, yeah, I'd say priority one, obviously, lubrication. You have to run these guns wet, and don't be shy. If you get a little oil splashing on your glasses when you shoot,
you're doing well.
That's fine.
Yep.
That's fine. I do. When I leave the range, it looks like I've been frying chicken. It's like my glasses are just coated in oil, you know?
Yeah.
Let me scroll back up here to the chat.
Yeah, it's like an old Harley panhead or old radial aircraft engines. If they're not leaking, then they're out of oil, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're not getting spots on your glasses, it's probably time to add a little oil.
That's right. I wanted to deal with this. I wanted to deal with this comment. This concept that 1911s were only designed to run ball. Okay. So here's a little exercise you guys can do. Chamber a bunch of rounds. Where is the bullet getting worn? Is it on the tip of the bullet, or is it on the side of the bullet and on the brass on the cartridge itself? The answer is going to be on the sides. The tip of the bullet does not touch any part of the pistol. Okay? Yes, 1911s can run hollow points if the hollow point doesn't look like a medieval mace. That's really the only requirement. And I have probably run 2,000 rounds of Remington UMC jacketed hollow points over the years. I have never had a problem feeding in GI mags, GI guns. That's an absolute myth. But when you get into somebody who they want to use their art degree on a bullet geometry, and they start doing weird things and shaping it weird, and it's got all these spikes hanging off of it and everything, well then yeah, it's not going to feed well. But when you're talking about the tiny little tip of the bullet that has a hole in it, that doesn't even touch the gun ever. So that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's very true. The two most critical factors on feed reliability are overall length of the cartridge,
yes,
and the ogive of the bullet. And if you go back into the 80s, when the Federal HydroShock became really popular, it was more of a cone-shaped bullet.
Yep.
It didn't feed that well. And Federal, or whoever does the bullets for Federal, they redesigned it. If you look at the more modern versions of the HydroShock, especially in 45 ACP, it's a very rounded design.
That's right.
Because, as Traveler mentioned, there's no contact on the tip of the bullet. They could be soft-nosed lead. It doesn't matter.
Yep. Because
contact isn't made there on the feed ramp. And so cartridge overall length is critical also for feed reliability. And a 45 is one that's probably a little more finicky than others. But we have to remember the other thing with military ball, that's all there was back then.
Yep.
You know, Browning designed the 32 ACP and the 380 and the 38 auto. They were all ball cartridges because that's just what they had at the time. You know, lead nose bullets, or probably, if you want to say more accurately, all lead bullets, you know, completely lead, were revolver cartridges for the most part.
Yep.
So there was experimentation done with semi-auto pistols and lead bullets, and they quickly found out that wasn't something that was going to work, at least at that time. So there was nothing else but ball. So, you know, the original 45 load 230 grain ball, or if you know, as Browning designed it, a 200 grain bullet, you know, that's what they had. Also remember, you know, different conventions and legal considerations with using soft nose ammo, you know, that was generally prohibited, you know, so in warfare. So, but going back again on your 45, for your feed reliability, your overall cartridge length,
yep,
and the shape or the ogive of the bullet, you can make a hollow point. And they have now. They, you know, HSTs feed well.
Yep.
Spear gold dots. What else is out there that's popular? Still make the HydroShocks. They feed well.
Yep.
The various Winchester loads.
I'll tell you one that I have had trouble with, and that is the Hornady Critical Defense. And
Yes.
the reason is you have a big brake pad hanging out of the front of the pistol. It's this big piece of rubber, right? Because they have that little plug design going. I have found those will get hung up in the magazine because that little piece of rubber will drag on the magazine as it's feeding, and it'll cause it to dive, and then when the gun goes to feed, you spin it around over backwards. Not every time, you know, but you have that one that's a little bit too long, and I have had that happen. But yeah, another one is SIG. SIG hollow points are excellent. I've never had a problem with those.
Yeah, what is it? The V Crown, I think. Those are,
yes,
they're good. I've shot some.
Good ammo.
Nosler makes some good factory ammo, good
Yes.
hollow points. 230 grains feed great. I don't use any of them, but I've tried them all.
Yep.
And, you know, I would not discourage anybody from using them. You know, run what works in your gun. That's the most important thing.
Yep.
The interesting thing, I guess, if we're talking about ammo, I wanted to just talk about the Trav ammo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, we have to tell people what that is. So
Well, I'll let you tell
yeah,
them.
let me give you that the lead up because
Yeah.
so basically you guys know in my video the Lagarde load, I made a cartridge that emulates that load, and basically it is a 230 grain ball. Um, it is 1.266 overall length, which is the original 45 ACP length, and it's going somewhere around 790 feet per second. It's a very, very pre-war load. So anyway, that's what he's talking about, my hand loads. So go ahead.
Well, and I was very privileged for you to send some to me. I was reluctant to use them for a while because I didn't want to. I sort of was going to put them on like a display case, but I tell you what prompted me to use them is I managed to get a Caspian that was in 40, and I thought that's an itch I had. I'm gonna try it in 40 just to see the difference. And
that's cool.
The Caspian was extremely well built, and when I fired it in 40, I thought that's very close to firing a 45. You had the full experience of a 1911, but it was decaffeinated.
Yeah,
it was. I would call it a decaffeinated 45. Now, when I fired the rounds that you gave me, I made sure I had one magazine with it and then one magazine as standard, and I tried one magazine after the other, and it's not a huge difference, but the real difference is in the way that you don't get that slap. It feels like 45, but it's a slightly decaffeinated 45. And I found I was getting the reacquisition of the target quicker. The barrel would come back down, and I found it easier to get the target. I found it more accurate. And I remember I called you about it, or we spoke about it, and I said, I really like it. It's a 45, but it's it just takes out. I'd say it's 90% of the power of a normal 45, and for target shooting, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
If I could fire that all the time, and I think my wife would like it as well. I mean, she fires 45.
Yeah.
Her biggest issue is the shells flying up and landing down her top. Yeah, and you see her.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not saying that it's a woman's 45. Nowhere near it.
Right.
What I'm saying is it takes just a fraction of the sting out.
Yeah.
And it makes target shooting that much more enjoyable.
Yeah, it's really there's nothing else out there really like it, factory.
No.
Now, people are going to dispute that because they're going to be like, well, this box says that it's 800 FPS. But here's the thing. There's a little bit of magic and alchemy that happens with reloading where you can have two cartridges that the data charts are exactly the same, but how they feel in your hand can be very different. And it's a very strange thing that I don't understand. But like, for instance, that Winchester white box, it's like 825, 850. Pretty standard, modern-ish 45 ACP load, but it hits a little harder. Like, it's a noticeable change. And then I've gone over to like Cellular and Below. It's listed as the same thing, doesn't feel the same.
No.
So there's something about like the powders, the burn rates, maybe what the components are in the bullet that maybe don't expand as much. There's so many factors, but to me, I think that original 790-ish to 810-ish load for the 45 ACP is the best because what are you really losing? People have it in their minds that velocity is king, right? But like just from a penetration standpoint, is the bullet like not going to penetrate now because you shaved off 50 FPS? No, it's still going to go through sheet metal, glass, a piece of plywood, and probably two people. I mean, those bullets are going to penetrate like crazy, but the experience on the shooter end is just so much nicer.
I think it's equivalent to when I first started shooting, and I was firing the Glock 43X, and it was snappy.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, "Are you firing 124 or 115 grain 9mm?" And I was like, "Huh?" You know. And he said, "You stick to 115," and I was on 115. But I would say that that's a sort of a good equivalent there, is that if you're just firing at paper targets, use the 115 grain on 9, but the slightly lower, slightly more gentle feeling of the reloads that you created, it lends to a more pleasant experience at the range. I definitely found a noticeable difference, and I thought, you know what, if they could make this, if you could get this commercially available just for range use,
yeah,
I think it'd be a very popular seller. You know, it's got to be the right price. I mean, the 45 that I use, and I found, and people don't have to agree with me, but I found very good results with, is I buy Academy. I buy the Monarch, and I had the little Academy card, and so you get 5% off, and they're doing a deal. And I think word's got round, because when I went back to my Academy, the local, the other day, it all gone. And I said, you know, you guys normally have truckloads of this stuff waiting here.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's all sold, and it's our own brand, so we should have plenty of it. So I went to the one up the road, and the guy's like, "I've got 6 boxes left." I'm like, "Well, what's going on?" You know, is there because there's fear of snow in Dallas area? You know, there's everyone buying up all the ammunition. You know,
that probably has something to do with it.
He wondered why I was buying a load. You know, yeah. But I find that to be a good 45, a good value, just to walk in a shop and buy some.
Yeah, I tend towards probably my main range load is Winchester White Box, just because it's so available. What's the other stuff? The Winchester USA Ready, which is like that's like their sort of answer to the Federal match stuff. And it's great stuff. It's a flat point 230 grain bullet. It's a little hot, you know. I've got it. Well, I don't want to show even a bullet. I'm not sure how that would go, but yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, for range, honestly, I try to stick to my hand loads. I mean, I throw in. I always bring at least 1 box of Winchester, because I don't want to get too used to my stuff, right? I don't want to spoil myself, and then when I go to shoot, you know, factory hot 45, then I'm surprised. But I really think something you said the other day, Ian, and which is why I made it, is there are those 1911s, particularly if somebody has a vintage 1911, say.
Yeah, or a new Colt, and you know, we know how bad they can be from my experience and your experience. Yeah,
exactly.
Trying to protect the new Colt from blowing itself up. Yeah,
exactly. And that's why I designed that bullet or that cartridge, because I wanted to like slow down, go easier on this Colt, because they forgot how to build guns.
But vintage, that's a good point. You know, someone who has a vintage firearm, like your friend that has the Remington Rand, they're terrified to fire these. And in a previous life, when I lived in England, I had an American V8 engine company. I mean, how crazy was that? I used to come over to the States, get the parts, send them back, and then I had some guy build them for me. But I sold a lot of V8 engines to people that had classic American cars, and they were terrified of blowing up the numbers matching engine.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy for me to sell them. I just say, well, let me build you an engine, sell you an engine that's the equivalent, more power. You can run it on unleaded fuel, and you can keep that existing engine to the side, and you retain it, and you've got 2 engines for the price of 1. And so this is a great analogy in a sense that the reduced power of the cartridge that you're talking about will allow people with these classic guns to breathe a bit easier and sleep easier at night when they go out and fire them.
Yeah,
it's that reduced power is a great idea.
I love the idea of selling V8s. That's all I drive is V8s. That's just
it was a weird time in my life, I have to say. I had some very strange people come up to me at shows.
Really?
And they talk like that, you know. A very strange voice. Hello.
Yeah. No, I've got a 2000 F250. It's one of the 2-valve V8s, the 5.4 Tritons. The 3 valves are awful. Oh my gosh, I went through that car wash. And then I've got a one of the Toyota with one of the 5.7. What is it? Not the 1GRFE. That's the V6. Anyway, the Sequoia and Tundra 5.7 V8s. Fantastic, man. They're just, Jolly and I were talking about that today. Those engines are just indestructible. They are fantastic.
And look at Dodge Ram. They brought their V8 back again, haven't they? They made it out that, you know, they didn't say it was their mistake, you know, but, you know, due to popular demand, you know, people stopped buying them, you know, because they love the V8. You know?
People don't want truck-shaped cars.
No.
That's what I call, particularly the Ford EcoBoosts, which I know, God, I cannot wait to see the chat light up, because probably a third of everybody in the chat drives an EcoBoost. But you know, it's a car engine that they're forcing air through and then putting it in a truck. So it's a truck-shaped car. Like, I had this guy that I worked with. It was so funny. He, you know, I had just gotten my F-250, and you turn it on, and it's, you know, it's got that girth to it, right? It's deep and it's big and all this stuff. And he's like, "Oh man, yeah, check mine out." And it was a GMC, and he starts it up, and it goes. I'm like, man. You shouldn't have done that. That was embarrassing for you.
Be careful when you meet your heroes, as you say, yeah?
Oh, that was funny. Let's check in the chat here. Man. Thanks, everybody, for being here, man. We got 100 people here right now.
Can I ask you, is 45 ACP guy there?
He it looks like he is, yeah.
Good, he's feeling better. So, hey, Pete, good evening to you.
Yeah, man, we were talking about you earlier. Hope you're feeling better.
Glad you're feeling better.
That is no good to be sick. Okay, so some of this you guys are just talking with each other, which I love.
Have we had any comments from Crack tonight?
Only a few.
Well, he must be quiet. It's a quiet night.
Yep. Yeah, he said he had some of those Wilson Combat mags, and they were bad. Yeah, it's just funny, man. Like those magazines. I bought them, and you know why? Is because I saw a video with Larry Vickers, obviously in a video with Bill Wilson, and he's doing his. All right, gang, get some 47 Deltas. You know, he's doing his thing. He's like, that fixes most of your feed issues. I'm like, okay, and I went and bought them, and let me tell you. Now, look, that's over 15 years of solid shooting. I experienced, and you just start noticing things. You start noticing what tends to work. And I went through the flat wire phase. I went through the bull barrel phase. I went through all sorts of different. I tried them all out, but nothing ran like, you know, for instance, my Springfield. You guys know that Springfield that I have. It's probably got 15,000 rounds through it.
I think every time you mention it goes up 1,000 rounds.
It's 12 to 15,000 rounds.
Yeah,
I err on the high
next week.
I err on the high side because where I used to live, I could literally shoot out my front door.
Right.
And I did. I would open the front door and I had a piece of steel in the front yard, and I could just bang the steel out and then go to work. Right. So anyway, that pistol. At the time, it was just a stock mil spec. It had a 16-pound spring in it. It had those same 7-round Springfield mags, nothing special. And then I had all these other guns. I had the TRPs, and I experimented with. I had a bull barrel TRP, and then I had the standard bushing TRP, and then I had the flat wire spring in the bushing barrel, and I was running 47 Deltas, and I did all that. And I would be out on the range, and I was just like, God, why are these guns not working? And it never occurred to me. It was all this crap that I was putting in the guns. But then I would go pull out that mil spec, this bone stock GI mil spec. That thing ran like a sewing machine. And one day the lights came on, and I went, I wonder why. And very shortly after that is when I started building 1911s, because you start exploring and you go, maybe that guy from Utah had this figured out. And of course that I was gone after that. But let's see here. Just 2A Knight says, just watch Last Man Standing for the umpteenth time. Best 1911 movie ever. I don't know if I've seen that. Yeah, I'm going to have to look at that one up, man.
That's the Bruce Willis, yeah.
Yeah, it's Bruce Willis.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me...
There's a scene where he's sitting at a table and he's got a mountain of magazines he's loading up, and he's got dual shoulder rigs.
Okay.
So yes. He I think in one point he says, when the pressure's building up and people are after him, he said, I've got to stay more focused. I'm switching from bourbon and I'm going to just drink beer instead. His way of staying focused.
That's funny. Yeah, for me, one of my favorite movies of all time is No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Just a phenomenal movie for so many reasons.
There's a good 1911 gun handling in Way of the Gun.
Excellent movie. Yeah, that last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've watched that.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Larry Vickers did a breakdown of that sequence?
Yeah, Larry at the Movies.
Yes. He needs to bring that back, because that was probably my favorite thing he's ever done. But yeah, that movie's fantastic. Just seeing them run a bunch of rat gray 1911s, probably carrying like 27 magazines apiece. There's no telling. They reloaded a lot. But yeah, good gun fu in that movie. Good gun handling. Of course, I'm rewatching Longmire right now, which is that movie. That movie is, or that show rather. It's extremes. It's either really good or it's really cheesy. Like there's one scene where they find this body, and Longmire takes the magazine out of his gorgeous 1911 and slides a 45 caliber bullet out, because they're saying that the gunshot wound is a 9mm, and he sticks the bullet in the wound. He goes, it's 45. And I'm like, that's the coolest thing. And then, like, so you have cool things like that. But then there's another scene where he fires a shot in the air to get these guys to stop fighting. And when the camera pans to him, the hammer's down. And I'm like, it's just, come on, man. It's painful. It's painful. But then there's another great scene where he's chasing this guy in the hills. And, he flanks him, and the guy turns around and he just dumps him with one in the face with a 45, and it's just like, yeah, love it. But yeah, No Country's fantastic. What are some other good 1911 movies and shows? The Unit. You guys ever watch The Unit?
No, I haven't seen that.
Worst show ever. It's the stupidest show on the planet. But the first season, I think it's episode 1. It's about Delta Force, and it's like if Gilmore Girls and Delta Force made a show together. It's the worst thing ever. But there's this hilarious scene where this guy, the one of the main characters, he's the Allstate guy, the black guy with the big voice. You know who I'm talking about? I can't remember his name, but fantastic actor. He boards the plane with nothing but a Springfield 1911. And he headshots every terrorist on the plane. And it's just, every 1911 guy has to appreciate that a little bit, you know?
Mm-hmm. Luckily, there was only 7 bad guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Luckily.
if it had been 8,
That's
you'd
right.
have to use Wilson Combat.
That's
It might not have been so lucky.
That's right. Saving Private Ryan, of course. You know, 1911s do blow up Tiger tanks. We now know that.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a great movie though. Just everything about that movie is a work of art. The movie SWAT had a lot. Yeah, that's true. A lot of 1911s there. Yeah, there's some. Okay, so this is good. Reconstructing Ryan says he's a total douche, but Steven Seagal movies had 1911s in them. And the gun fu in his movies are good because he's a shooter. So there's one movie where he's chasing these guys through like these industrial buildings, and it's like the movie's so cheesy, but you can just tell he's a shooter because like the way he holds the pistol and the way his trigger placement, and then he'll do a reload, and it's just like that guy shoots. I can see it. And then at one point when everybody's down, he does the classic, the press check, see if he's still chambered. It's
I enjoyed his film Out for Justice. There's still that great scene where he's in the bar. Has anyone seen Richie?
Yeah.
And he takes them all on, and he picks up the cue ball, doesn't he? He picks up the white cue ball and puts it in a sock, and he uses that. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure another great movie, classic movie, hilarious movie, Boondock Saints.
I've seen that. That's really good.
That's a great movie, and I'm pretty sure their dad at the end, when they get in a gunfight with him, and he's got the 4-pistol rig. I think I know there's Berettas really heavy in that movie, but I think in there he's got some Smith & Wesson series autos, but I think there's a couple 1911s in that rig.
Yeah, William Dafoe's in that, wasn't he? He was the detective.
Yes, which just his character's so funny, man.
He's a bit off the wall, that.
Yeah. And his relationship with the cops is just so funny.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that movie is.
That's a great movie. But
it's a good movie. That's a great movie. Let's see. Yeah, and there's some great video game 1911s. Obviously, you got to talk about Hitman. Fantastic. Let's see here. Does Pulp Fiction count? Yeah. I thought, doesn't Samuel Jackson run a 1911 in that movie?
It's not quite. I saw the nerd media on that, and it is very similar, but it's not.
Okay.
And someone can look that up. One of the viewers will quickly look that up, and they'll tell you exactly what it is. But you would think
it is. It's a Star.
Yes.
That's it. Okay. Someone who said that. I just passed it. Oh, here it is. Nashcraft. He said they're Star Model Bs. That's what it is.
So to quote him, check out the big brain on Nashcraft. Yeah. He says it, check out the big brain on Brett.
There you go.
There's a movie with good gun handling in it and an absolutely reprehensible actor, Robert De Niro, but Ronin, if you've seen that.
Yes. Good one.
And he uses a Colt 1991 early in the movie before he switches over to something else. I can't remember now, but he started off with a Colt 1911. It was actually a 1991, and there's some pretty good scenes in that movie. You see some Berettas and various other things in there too. But it's a pretty action-packed movie. But I remember the first time I saw that. I've actually been to some of the filming locations where that movie was made.
That's cool.
So including if you remember the stadium scene there where they have a shootout in the Roman Coliseum, I've been in there. But I always thought that was a little bit noteworthy, just a brief appearance. And then Heat, Al Pacino uses a Colt officer's model.
Yeah.
And it's actually a 1991 officer's model.
That's good.
So that's kind of interesting too.
I want somebody to make a movie about Alvin York. And I know they exist. There's like a really old one. But I mean, like, let me get, like a James Cameron to make us an Alvin York movie. Because when you know his story, it's not all about the war. Like, that guy, he has a very hard life. And then he grows up and he's struggling with drinking and bar fights. And then he has, I don't want to ruin his story. You guys should go read it. But then he basically just feels convicted. He's supposed to join the military and go support this cause. And he goes over there and ends up doing what he did. And man, just that, I don't know why anybody's not made a movie about that guy, because I don't know of anyone else who's marched 131 Germans down the hill with nothing but a pistol and a couple bullets left. That's kind of impressive.
Yeah, the
Kind of ballsy.
Yeah.
The one feature length film was made about him was with Gary Cooper. I believe it was 1942.
Yes, that's.
And for those who haven't seen it, he does his good work with a Luger and not a 1911.
That's why I didn't bring it up, because automatically they took the most iconic thing Alvin York's ever done and gave him a Luger. What in God's name? Like, how can you do that, man?
Well, Hollywood won't let history get in the way of a good story.
That's a fact.
Historical fact is not an issue for Hollywood.
That is. Oh, here's a good one. John Walker says, and this is true. We got to talk about John Wick. Those are excellent movies.
Mm.
They're kind of they're movies how they should be, where it's like these guys are having fun making this movie. They're not holding back. There's no political correctness. It's like it's just pedal to the metal. Let's go as awesome as we can. And there's some great 1911 work in that movie, and several of them.
It's worth watching the John Wicks on the big screen.
Yeah.
There's like Kill. I mean, I never saw Kill Bill on the big screen. I wish I had. Yeah. Now I know it's out. He's Tarantino's brought out the very long version of it, but I think the John Wicks are well worth watching on big screen.
Yep, absolutely. They're really good movies, and particularly the most interesting part of those movies is like the lore that starts to develop as they kept making movies, where you have the Continental and they have their rules, and there's these coins, but then there's these like blood coins and whatever. It's just the lore behind those movies is really fun.
You working again, John?
Yeah, exactly. I'm guessing I'm back.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, here's a great question. David Weathers, do you think Kimber has improved their quality since they're moving their plant to Alabama? Well, that's a hard question to answer about Alabama, because the recent example that I have is from, New York? Yonkers. One of the Yonkers models. I'm going to defer, and I would recommend you guys to Matt over at Wyoming Gun Project. He's got much more extensive history with those than I do. Extensive history with the new stuff. And I'm going to quote him. He says, Kimber is on their redemption arc. And I would agree, because I have I've owned 2 Kimbers before the one I own now. And they were horrible. I owned them both for a month and sold them. They're the worst, some of the worst 1911s I've ever had before my Mark IV. And the difference, though, is I couldn't get those Kimbers to work. No matter what I did, I could not get them to work. So I sold them, but then I worked on other people's Kimbers. Particularly a guy who was with SWAT. It was his like door kicking pistol. And he's like, I can't get this thing to run, man. And I mean, I had to do everything to that pistol to get it to run. And so from that point on, I was very just like, Kimbers are garbage. I'm never touching them again. But I started hearing people talk about like, no, these recent Kimbers, they're back. They're
big
here.
one. The big one that's making all the waves is the 2K11.
Is that their?
It's their 9mm, and it's people talk about the slide being like on butter, and I had a go at it, not once but twice. I nearly bought one. I just found the 9mm just a little bit boring.
Yeah.
But I put 300, 400 rounds through it, flawless. And I was talking to the range officer, and he said, we have something like 6,000 rounds through this one already. Everybody's having a go at it. We've only had it a couple of weeks, and it's constantly being used. And he said, I've had a fire of it. He said, flawless.
Yeah.
0 issues. And if you look at the YouTube channel, when I was researching it, there are hundreds of videos of everybody turning around and saying, Kimber is on their redemption arc, and this is the pistol that's done it. And I walked into my gun guy the other day, and he was complaining he had too many 1911s. It was my fault for bringing them. But he said, I said, what do you got? And he said, I've got two of them here. And there was two brand new Kimber 2011s, 2K11s. And
now, to be clear, they're not the double stack guns. It's a single stack gun, but like
they have double stack.
Oh, they are double stack. Okay.
Yes, they are.
And Kimber came out with a newer one that's a very, like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's, anyway, they're trying to like make the most updated single stack 1911 they can. Right. But that's not what you're talking about.
No, the 2K11s are the double stack. You're following on from the staccatos, and but they've got it right. They are super smooth, and they show literally when you pull the slide back, the spring, there's virtually zero pressure. Everyone loves that. They've all got a red dot on them, and people are using them for all the competitions. Yeah. So they are the new black, so to speak. And I think this single gun, and as I said, my gun guy, he had two of them, and I said, well, what are they asking you to do? And he said, just the usual, just improve the trigger. And I said, well, I've fired these. The trigger's really good. And he went, yeah, but that's the thing. He said, I did comment about that. The trigger's very good. And I said, those two guns are nearly $5,000 worth of guns. They weren't the cheapest. They were, but someone had bought two. So people are using those, and I think that particular firearm is definitely putting Kimber back into a very positive light.
Well, I think you're right, because that is, and I was talking to that guy that I was talking to with his 1911 today, and he's a big 2011 guy. I just can't get into him. I'm too much of a purist. But I said, here's why the 2011 thing is popular. It's because all the guys who secretly want to like 1911s can't like them because it's not 9mm and it's not high capacity. But this gives them the pass to be allowed to like 1911s. I really believe that.
Great marketing. If you look at Tisas and Mac, you've got the Tisas B9R, you've got the Mac version, and our friend Matt at Wyoming, he has both of those. And I said to him, which one do you prefer? And he said, you know what, I like the Mac a little bit more. Yeah. But they're great guns, and everyone has a red dot on them. Everyone has a light on the bottom, and they're these mag dump pistols in 9, which are a lot of fun. Yep. And Tisas is coming down in price on them. For a long while they're up at the 700-800s. Now they're coming. You start seeing them for around 650 chicken nuggets, as we say. Max a bit more. Yeah. But the B9R has been changed. They put a bull barrel into that one, which was typical of just the Mac, and they've made a longer rail. So they're listening. But the competition out there, and I think the gun manufacturers have struck gold, because they're selling 1911s that people who wouldn't be interested in the typical 45 7-round mag, they can buy a 1911, they can put a red dot, they can put a light on it, and they can have 15 17 round mags. Yep. That opens them up to the world of the 1911, and maybe they'll start buying the 45s. Great marketing.
What I did want to say though about Kimber is I can only speak to mine. But I will tell you, that's as good as any 1911 I've ever shot. And if they can do that, build classic, at least internally, 1911s the old way, where it's like internal extractor, the extractors are tuned, it's got a solid trigger on it, it's the barrel. Let me tell you, the barrel fit on that Kimber, second to none. It is so good. And when you really think about this, the Custom 2 is what I have. When you take a step back and realize that gun new is like $700. $700 for a stainless frame gun. The slide is probably like a PVD, because it will not rust. I've carried it and absolutely soaked it in sweat. It does not rust. Reliable, tuned. I mean, man, the thumb safety, the barrel, the trigger, everything, primo. That's a lot of gun. For very little money, and I feel like they're getting back to their roots. Now, they're not doing it perfectly because they're still putting plastic junk in there and all that stuff.
Colt.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, Springfield's going that way now. Somebody emailed me today and is like, "What the heck is this?" Was the title of the email, and it's the shoe, the mainspring housing are plastic on their brand new Springfield, and it's awful. It's awful. But I'm excited about Kimber, man. Like, I want him to succeed, and I want him to get back to the old ways. I want him to make a proper gun. And I can tell you, mine, I'm probably maximum 600 or 700 rounds into that gun. I don't shoot it a ton. It runs like a top. Excellent.
I remember your video when you was a bit cautious about it, saying, oh, I'm getting one, and then you did a video where you said, do you know what, guys, I've got to take it back what I said. I'm so impressed with this. You were really blown away with it. It was a great video.
Yep. Yeah, I think I titled it, I was wrong. And because, you know, I don't know. I just, the Kimber, you can't listen to the Kimber fan base because they're just as bad as some of the cultists, where it's like they just lose the objectivity. And, you know, you have people saying that, you know, Kimbers are the best 1911s on the market. That's a tall statement. But I got to say,
light up for you in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, man, like being a 1911 guy who builds them, I understand them, like impressed. Really, of course, again, got rid of the plastics, put in a proper recoil system. That full-length guide rod went in the trash. I do not keep those. Everything past that, awesome gun.
I mean, how many manufacturers out there make modern 1911s with plastic mainspring housing? I can think, the first one I can think of is Colt. Yeah, you said Kimber.
Colt, Springfield, Kimber. I think Charles Daly does it. I think. So somebody emailed me or commented on one of my videos the other day, and it was a very weird comment. They said that pretty much no one is selling A1 1911s anymore, and I'm like, I said I could probably name 50 off the top of my head, and he goes, so do it, and I gave him 65. and and you know, of course, anyway. But of that, it was interesting as I was scanning through and thinking about them. I Googled a few of them, and yeah, there's a surprising number that if it's not plastic, it's really bad really bad cast stuff. So the number of guys who are companies that are building good 1911s, like that I'm impressed with, I'd say it's like 6 or 7.
We talked about this, didn't we? When I told you about my experience with a new Colt that one I bought in 2025, the government, and I replaced everything.
Yeah,
I had to replace everything except the slide, except the frame. You know, I kept the hammer. I replaced virtually everything. But the thing that had to go, that broke immediately, was the mainspring housing. The plunger had broken through the bottom, so I couldn't put the retaining pin back in. And
that was with the plastic mainspring housing. And
it was a brand new 2025 Colt government.
This is, everybody listen right now. This is what I'm talking about, and this is why you can't put plastic in 1911s. You just can't. It's not. Look, I have a story like that too, where my friend John, he had a Kimber, and this was probably in 2012-ish, around that time frame. And I remember we're walking in his house. We had just unloaded our handguns in his garage, and we're walking in, and he's going to reholster. He just missed. Okay, accidents happen. Missed and just chucked his pistol down on the ground. Right. because it was an outside the waistband. He's a cop, so he had one of those big stupid level 3 holsters and just missed. And it hit the sill or the jamb of his door on the ground. The barrel hit the sill and spun the pistol into the concrete, and it split that mainspring housing in two, and the mainspring went boing and popped out the bottom.
I didn't even have to do that. Within I think 3 days, I noticed I could not put the retaining pin back in, and when I looked closely, I saw that the plunger had pushed through. Now, again, we've got people here who love Colts who are watching this. I adore the Colt. I've got a number of them, and the Colt that I bought brand new, and I replaced everything with Wilson Combat. It fires beautifully.
Yeah,
fires like Wilson Combat. But I was very fortunate that Mark here at Jolly found me the same pistol, an 80s series that was made in 2014, and I ummed and ahed about it. And I said, well, I've already got one. And Jolly said to me, wouldn't you like to get one that's the same, that actually fired the way that Colt intended it when things were great for them? And I said, okay, well, I got it, and it was unfired. That was the first bonus. But the fact that it fired perfectly, just shows you how good Colt has been. It just shows you how good they can be. It's just at the moment they're going through that stage where they have some QC issues, and everyone's talking about it. But their products, I've got a number of Colts, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, especially that recent one, which I don't know if most of my audience knows, but they know that I have 2 of the pre-war reproductions, which are my dream gun. If I could only keep one, and it had to be my pistol for the rest of my life, it would be one of those. They're just the best pistol in the world for me.
The Centennial, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you got one.
Yes,
and
I did.
Boy, how great is that? Like,
yeah, I did what I said. I got it back. Mm-hmm. I took it apart, just visually inspected, lubed it. I checked the sear, and there was a little bit of as I told you, there's an issue with the sear, and I just simply got a stone and just took it off. But that was all, and that meant I could keep the original Colt sear from 2012, I think it was actually issued. And I put the snap cap in, and I pulled the trigger, and it just snapped. It was, and I remember thinking, wow. And I said to you, I think I went onto the Patreon, and I just said, why can't Colt make them all their guns like this? It was just fantastic. Yeah, superb pistol from Colt.
That's. I want so bad to be a champion for Colt. I really do.
I agree. I'd be too.
I want them to be the best. I don't want anybody else to be the best. I want Colt to make everybody look bad, because they're the gun. They're the one. But I have to be objective, man. The stuff that they're doing right now. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen like my buddy Baron, which everybody watching should go subscribe to Baron. He had, what was that? The chief special, maybe that revolver he had.
The Colt, he had the Cobra.
The Cobra, that's it.
What he had all the problems with.
Yeah, I mean,
did he sell that to Matt, Wyoming?
He did. He
did. Matt was firing it.
Matt's
that's right.
trying to break it. Yeah, again.
Yeah,
by the way. Right. So yeah, he had the hammer break on that. He's had trigger springs break. I mean, we're talking like catastrophic failure. And Colt's attitude is like, okay, what about it? I'm sorry. That's, and of course everybody knows my issues. And by the way, I've had no less than 20 people comment or email to me and say, oh, my gun was missing rifling too. And you guys saw, if everybody watched my series on my Mark IV, one of my buddies who's an FFL, he received a Colt for somebody brand new. One of the night commanders or night something. No rifling. Just a smooth bore. It was a musket. And It's just shameful, man. So I tell people now, you can play Colt roulette and buy a new one.
Yes.
Or I recommend go get one before CZ bought them.
And I can, from my experience, and you warned me. There was a big enough warning on your YouTube video, but I had to go out and get one. And like I said, it looked, when I was firing it, I actually showed it to my gun guy. And he noticed that one of the big issues was the disconnector. It had way too much material. It hadn't been machined correctly, and it was causing a bind. The sear spring was in terrible condition, and he said, "This is not safe. You need to take these parts out and replace them," which I did. But I've seen other people on Instagram that had the same Colt government, and they've made the same comments. I wish. I love the gun.
Yep.
I just wish I didn't have to replace all the parts for it to make it work. So businesses do that. Businesses have these tremendous highs, and then they go through these lows. And I think if it didn't happen, you wouldn't get a company like Tisas wouldn't have got the foothold that it did.
Yep.
If Colt was still fantastic, was still perfect in every way, Tisas wouldn't have got a look in. Yeah. I think they've helped Tisas get a foothold. They're still Colt. They still do these beautiful blue guns, and I'm sure Colt will get round to becoming the best again. It's just going to take a little while and maybe some conversations to promote that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a new Colt, if you're considering one, make sure that you can actually physically hold it in your hands, look it over thoroughly, and I'd be adamant wherever you are about having them let you take it apart, at least take the slide off, and look at everything.
Yep.
I would not buy one. You buy one on the internet, have it shipped to your FFL. If the day you go pick it up, you better do the same thing. You better give it a good inspection, and if it's not right, refuse it.
Yep.
But it's a shame that we have to look at it that way, but that's what they've come to now. I think a lot of us had very high hopes with the CZ merger. I don't think it's helped at all. In fact, I think maybe it's hurt.
Yeah.
I don't think that they've put any money into Colt. So they just acquired them, but they haven't done anything for product improvement or quality control. So I saw that somebody asked that in the comments here about CZ. I don't think it's been a good partnership so far.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
if
you're looking,
it feels like nobody's at the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought two of the Mark IVs. One's about 3 years old, and I just got one a few months ago, and they're fantastic. They are 1,782 serial numbers apart. So I don't know exactly when they were made because the serial numbers don't work on Colt's lookup when you go to the website. Yeah. But the one is going on 4 years old. But I was able to look at that one before I bought it and took it home. And the place where I bought it let me take it apart and look at it. And I was satisfied. I got this other one, the same kind of deal. I've been very fortunate. I think I'm 2 for 2, but that I wouldn't count on that. Yeah. Unfortunately. One thing, talking about the plastic parts and the mainspring housing, on a 1911, the mainspring housing is the one part that probably has the most stress on it.
Absolutely.
Guns resting. There is a tremendous amount of power that is captured in that mainspring housing. When you have that spring in there, you put the plunger in, you put the little pin holding everything together. There's a tremendous amount of captured power in there. Mm-hmm. That part should not be plastic. I don't think it should be MIM either.
No.
That needs to be a steel part. The issue with Barron's Cobra and having, I think it was the hammer break. Smith & Wesson has had issues too with their revolvers because hammers and triggers are made out of MIM now. There are certain places where that's fine. On a 1911, a grip safety is a perfect example of where you can use MIM. Yeah. It is a low stress part. It's fine. That's about the only MIM part I'll leave in a 1911. I change things over, but there are reasons that some of these things are happening, and it's it's, you know, it's in the name of making money and cutting costs, you know, production costs.
Yeah.
So, but again, if you're looking at a new Colt, they make some fantastic guns, but I would not buy one sight unseen.
Absolutely.
I think,
yeah.
I would not.
Unless I only have one exception to that. If it's one of the pre-war reproductions.
Yes.
And the only reason I say that is because that was a limited run of 4,000 pistols. They all went through the custom shop, and they got tuned. They got fitted really nicely. They made those guns on purpose. And right now, I have two. Ian, you have one. Yeah. I know somebody else who has one. The reports are the same. Hickok 45. He's got, I think, a couple of them.
He would.
Yeah.
He never has less than two.
That's right.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. Those are also made at a time when they were still putting out pretty good product, you know, back then.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ian's, that 2014.
Yeah.
And I made him a deal. I said, if you buy it and don't like it, I'll take it off your hands. But I was so sure that he would get a good gun that I recommended it.
Yeah. Because it was so good that I got some M1991s on your recommendation as well. And in fairness, Trav, you did that video, and Red Baron as well. Mr. Baron did as well. I watched his video where he just gave a heartfelt message about the Colt M1991. And I posted a picture on my Instagram, and someone said, I've never been interested in them. I'm seeing more of them. And I said, well, they're becoming more popular. You know, they're an 80s series, but don't let that hold you back.
Yep.
It fires great. And they're starting to go up in value now because people are realizing that these are really good Colts made at a really good time. And, you know, is it blued like the normal government? No. Yeah. But you can do what I did. You know, take off the phosphate, polish it, and then get it blued. You know, so.
No, those 1991s are, and Jolly, you convinced me to try them. I got one right there. It's become the workhorse. Honestly, you know what it feels like, and I want to do a video on this actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, it instills in me the confidence that my Springfield did when I first got it. Like, it just feels like a fighting handgun. It doesn't feel like it needs to be babied. It doesn't feel delicate. It's like, no, I can club my way through a CMU wall if I have to with this pistol. Like, it's a beater, and not in a bad way. But like, it's not a gun I don't care about. It just feels tough and sturdy. It feels like a war pistol. But I do. Let me go to the chat and just catch up here, and we'll close.
While you're looking there, Trav, let me tie two things together then.
Please.
Your pre-wars or your centennials, and I don't have one. I haven't had one, but they are fantastic.
Yeah.
And look when they were made, 2008, 2009 timeframe.
Yeah.
At the same time, you know, that was kind of their top end thing because it was a custom shop item, limited production, like 4,000 or 5,000 they made. So it shows what they could do from the custom shop. The other end of that whole spectrum was the 1991. That was their budget level, entry level pistol. They still had excellent quality, even though it was the cheapest Colt you could buy.
Yep.
So at that time frame was a good time. They were making generally pretty good pistols then.
Yep. Yeah. I want to say mine is it might be when did I say mine was made? I don't remember. I want to say it was like a 2012.
It probably, yeah. Probably is.
Man, I can't remember at all. But yeah, that for me, I will never buy a new Colt again until somebody else takes them over and actually like makes a public statement saying like, mea culpa, we blow goats, we've done really bad, and please give us another chance, you know.
Yeah. Well, if Kimber can come back,
that's right,
from the dead, so to speak, with this, and it only takes one pistol. This 2K11 seems to be the one that has really got people talking. I think if for Colt, they need to find a pistol that they know it's going to be popular, and I guess the government will be the standard government.
Well,
but it's only going to take one pistol to come back and people rave about.
I think, in my opinion, the low-hanging fruit is if they did a 1930s interwar A1. You have a lot of crossover there. You got the A1, which a lot of people tend towards, right? You got the blued thing, and they do the blued thing really well. They can bring back some classic roll marks, the commercial roll marks and stuff, which don't get enough credit at all. And it's not going to take any special tooling. They can do all that right now.
Yes.
But if they can do it right, if they would make one of those, boy, even honestly, I guess I'd take that back and say, what if they just did their Colt Classic properly? I'd be happy with one of those too. You know, just a good old Colt, man. Like, you know, or the Mark IV. That, like, there's so many models they could do. Personally, I would say if Colt, they could have their main line, get rid of everything else. I don't care about competition pistols. Who cares about that? If you could just do a pre-war 1911 as a regular item, regular production item, interwar, A1, Mark IV, and then their basic like Colt Classic. They couldn't make them fast enough if they did it right.
And I think it's going to take a quality sear that hasn't been sharpened on a curbstone, a decent sear spring, a decent connector that doesn't have a pile of material, and a metal mainspring housing. You know, now I fitted an Ed Brown, my second blued Ed Brown, to the back of the 2014 Colt that I got. And I've got the part right here that I took out, the plastic mainspring housing, and it looks all right. But when I put the Ed Brown in and it was already blued, it was a perfect match. And I'm thinking, you know, that didn't cost a lot of money. And for a company like Colt, they could, just those little extra changes, I think would make such a difference and bring them back into the arms of the people that love Colt, me included.
I think you nailed it. It's really that simple. Get the sear right. Get that trigger pull feeling perfect, because they can. They can.
It's not difficult.
It's not. It's not.
Because Tisas can do it.
If a moron like me can get that figured out, they can get it figured out. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, get a good sear, use good parts, and I would even forego like some tight fit barrel. I would forego any fancy grips. Honestly, they could put some black plastic Colt injection grips on there like they used to. They got to get rid of the black block sights. I despise those sights. I don't like those. Go back to GI sights, but just those little changes, this would be enough for guys like me to start championing them once again. And I would, and it's sad, man, because like I have so many people. I mean, probably 4 times tonight, 5 times tonight. What's the pistol that I should get? What 1911 should I start with? I want to say Colt. I don't like that I have to recommend some other brand. Now, I'm happy to recommend Tisas because I love them, but I like that name. I like the classic American Colt. And
I have to agree with you. After I got my first Colt, there's something about it.
Yep.
There's something about it. I love that. I've got enough Tisas, and I love them. But the Colt, there's something different about it.
Yep.
Maybe it's blued. Maybe it's the name. It feels slightly different when you fire it.
Here's what it's like. It's like sitting in a modern production, say, F-150. Everything you touch is synthetic and plastic.
Yes.
Everything's rattly and janky, and the truck, whatever, right? It feels that. Then you get out of that and you get in a 1972 Highboy with a leather bench seat, and you can smell the leather. And you grab the steering wheel, and the steering wheel's wrapped leather, and you've got real wood trim on the dash. And you start that thing up, and you can, the experience is completely different. Completely different. I think it's like that, where it's like they're trying to synthesize pistols, and it just, you can't do it, especially the 1911. This is an old world gun, and I'm not saying they have to be hand fitted, because again, I'd take a slightly loose fitting barrel. I would take a rattly slide to frame fit. What else? I'll keep their janky loose triggers that they seem to do regularly. Just give me a good break. Give me a solid gun.
Would you say something like that? You can actually feel the soul that the Colt has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, well, you feel it with the guns you have. You know, I feel it with, when I pick up my Mark IV, I feel my soul because I'm the one who tuned it. But when I pick up my Black Army or my 100th anniversary, yeah, there's something different there. It's like
all the Colts I have a feeling, a different feeling to the Tisas. The Tisas are extremely good, but slightly clinical. I think that's the best way to describe it.
I couldn't say that better. Yep.
Yeah. There's something about firing a Colt, especially the used ones. I've noticed it with the M1991s. There's a different feel to them. Maybe it's the 80s trigger. I don't know. But even the the 80s 2014 government I've got has a fantastic feel to it, and that's straight from the shop, albeit 11 years old.
Yep. Yeah. No, there's something to it. I can compare it to my Winchester 1907. You pick up that rifle. It was made in 1909. The markings on it, it has stamps from a person who took ownership of the installation of that part, right? And you hold this rifle, it is the sturdiest firearm I own. And it's however many years old, 120 something years old, right? And you can feel, I mean, I've passed that gun to people who aren't even gun people. Like I remember handing it to a friend of mine who was over, and he's not really a gun guy, but he held it and he goes, this feels like a time machine. He's like, there's something about, I mean, even the smell of the steel is different. Like it's completely different. I can also say that about, like, my dad's old Remington 870. It's got this huge, thick steel receiver. Doesn't have an aluminum receiver, right? So yeah, I absolutely agree, man. I could go on about that all day. That, like, there's a spirit to, and this is why, like, this is super cheesy, I know, but when, like, a blacksmith would forge a samurai sword, he thought of it as giving birth.
Yes.
And that those swords had a soul.
Well, they involved prayer, didn't they, as well?
Yeah. And not that I necessarily believe all that, but I understand it. I understand it because, and look, I've held daimyo or Edo period samurai swords, and you just want to cry. You're just like, I don't even know that I want to touch this. It's just an incredible thing. So, yeah, and I think, and I'll tell. Here's another example to use your clinical description. I feel the same way, and I'm not talking bad about these companies, but like the Nighthawks and Wilsons, they feel clinical to me. They don't have the same spirit that my Black Army does. Not even close.
I think Baron, and I've mentioned it a few times, when I saw his video, I was just getting that M19, the first one, and I saw it and I thought, well, I'm going to watch this. And he sort of sits there outside, and you can see he's hot, but he talks from the heart.
He does.
And it really struck me, the YouTube video. It was just the way that he absolutely was trying to convey there was something different about it. And he said, I'm going to give it to my son, and it's going to be an heirloom for him. And I thought, and when I got to hold one and fire one for the first time, I remember thinking, I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying and how true it is.
Yep, there's something to it. So before we wrap here, I just want to do a little catch up on the chat. thank you guys for hanging out. It's been a great show. Um,
How many did we top out at?
right at 100.
Okay,
Which is great.
Good.
That's great,
Yeah.
man. I'm glad everybody's here. So yeah, JRK is. I met him in person. He said Blue felt really good. He got to hold Blue, and Blue is a special gun. That one, it's been shot a lot, and it's been rebuilt 3 times, and that's a workhorse right there. Which I have another project coming. You guys are going to see some videos on in the coming weeks. Another gun is getting blued, and the Patreon's got a sneak peek, a picture today. And I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited.
You mentioning Patreon, there's something I want to say.
Please.
We touched on this yesterday. If people out there are considering joining Patreon, the nice thing about it is that you can go on and you can see your favorite YouTuber and see their video. And then you're encouraged in a sense to add some comments. But the danger of that is that there are some Wild West sort of people out there that I guess, and Trav, you get to hear these people all the time, but you get the keyboard heroes and they will come back at you. You can make a comment, and I found this from personal experience. You can make a comment where you feel you're being helpful, and then someone's had a little bit too much, bourbon or whatever, and late night, and they come back right in your face, and it puts off good comments. It puts off good discussion. You can instead go onto the Patreon channel for that YouTuber, and you're in a safe haven. You're in a safe harbor where it's moderated, and it should be. And people behave themselves. It's a community, and people. I'm a moderator on your Patreon. I've not had to turn around to anybody and say, look, can you mind yourself, please? Because it's a wonderful place to come in to ask questions, because it takes. I was new to this, but you can learn. There's no such thing as a stupid question.
That's right.
The stupid question is the question that you're afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And I think that Patreon is a great place to come and join, because you can join in with conversations and not have these keyboard heroes sort of jump down your throat and ruin the experience for you.
Yeah. That's wonderful to hear, man. And that's what I want. Even with the YouTube channel, I like the big tent concept that, like, hey, all experience levels are welcome. All income levels are welcome. All tastes are welcome. Like, the one thing that always bothered me about the gun world is you have to pay to be accepted. And you have to tote the line and say the thing to be accepted. And I hate that, because it's like, unless you, like, for instance, I'll never forget the first time I got invited to hang out with, like, I don't know, the guys with all the expensive guns. The only time I got invited is when I bought an expensive gun. Right?
You're part of the exclusive club.
I think that's disgusting. Like, I think it's, for me, I'm just like, look, I have strong opinions about guns. I have strong tastes about guns. I don't hate any guns. I think they're all fun, even if they're not my preference. And I don't have to like it to appreciate that somebody else does. And anyway, that's the environment I want to foster. Is it's like, we can agree to disagree, but I want people to feel welcome, and I want them to feel like, yeah, I can come here, I can say my piece. As long as you're respectful, man. That's all I really ask, is that we treat each other with decency, and especially with the Patreon, I want that to be a place where it's like, no, you can come here. Like, we want new people. I don't want some gatekeeping where it's like, you got to be some, shooter for 30 years to get in. No, if you started today, I want you there. I think of it this way. This will be my last analogy before we wrap. When I first started playing guitar at 10 years old, one of the greatest benefits that ever happened to me was I picked up the guitar and immediately was thrown into a bunch of guys who had been playing for 30, 40 years. I didn't go play with a bunch of kids my age. I played with pros, right? And within 2 years of playing guitar, I was up on stage with those pros. They invited me, and they challenged me, and they were kind to me, right? And I grew in the big fishbowl. And that's what I like to do for other people, where it's like, no, you don't have to know a lot to be accepted here. We want you here in the big fishbowl so that you can grow and learn and contribute. Because I think I said this on a live stream once. This one guy emailed me about this idea that he had for a jig that nobody else is doing. And he's like, and I asked him, how long you been doing this? He's like, a couple weeks. And I'm like, buddy, this is in your bones. First of all, you need to patent that because that's a fantastic idea. But I just love that, man. I want people to feel welcome. The only people who are not welcome are elitists and dickheads. Those are the only ones that I don't want here.
Everyone's welcome on Patreon, and especially if they are Tisas fanatics. I have a special place in my heart for them. I think it's crack that makes them.
I was just going to bring that up.
This is the secret. This is the Tisas secret Tisas cult.
That's right.
Yeah,
if once you're here for a year, you got to get a Tisas tram stamp. That's the rules.
Yeah. Funny you should mention that.
I love it. Awesome. Well, man, thank everybody for being here. It has been. Service Rival says, "It is I. I am the dickhead. You're not a dickhead." The dickheads are the ones who take me out of context and like one guy. What did he say yesterday? I laughed. Oh my gosh, I laughed so hard. He goes, "The way you think is stupid. Who made you 1911 Jesus?" And I thought, this guy right here, he's a miserable human being. And I just, I said something back to him, and I'm just like, block. Just get out of here. I don't want you around here, man. Like,
who made you a 1911 Jesus?
I'm like nobody. I'm like, whatever.
Well, that'll resurface on the Patreon, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, 1911. Well, I think the funniest thing. It took me a minute for it to click, but somebody called Forgotten Weapons Gun Jesus.
Yeah.
And I thought that is one of the funniest things I have ever heard. I love that. But anyway, hey, Ian, Jolly, thank you guys for being here. It was a fun conversation.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Yep. And we're going to do it again for sure. I want to get Matt and Barron in here too.
Look. 5 of us, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, just so you guys know, that is something I want to do more with these live streams. I want to have guests and stuff. Soon, Jolly and I are going to be in the same room. We're going to be hanging out together for a while, and we're going to do a live stream together in some leather seats right over there. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Videos to follow on that. But yeah, couple things before we close. Definitely go follow me on Instagram. I'm way more active on there just throughout the day than anything else. I'm on X. Definitely join the Patreon. That's people ask all the time, and it's a weird amount of times they ask, how can I support the channel? How can I help you grow? Join Patreon. And the reason is that is the best way to grow this business is that steady stream of support. So that's a great way to support, and it's a great community. And then other than that, stay tuned for the next few weeks of videos, man. I've got some bangers coming. I'm so excited about, particularly that 1903. That's coming. I've got some sheet metal, some wood, some spare ribs, and some London broils as shooting media. We're going Paul Harrell style, and I'm going to be testing some bullets and some cartridges. It's going to be great, man. So Anyway, thank you everyone for being here. It's been a awesome night. And until next time, we will see you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.